It's a three-peat in Manchester, but can City make it a holy trifecta and claim the treble in Europe? Jose Mourinho seeks to reclaim his throne, and Decision Sunday looms for the relegation fighters in the Premier League. We're going to cover all of this and more on the support section. Grab your scarves. We start right now. Welcome into the supporter section. I am Cole Carter, and this is episode 71 of the supporter section podcast. Go ahead and leave a like and subscribe if you have not already, because we are 2 people away from 100 subs, and we would love if you guys subscribed right now. Help us get there today. Let's finish this thing off. Go ahead and get that done right now if you're new around here, or tell a friend. I've got my good friends here with me, Brandon Patesnick and Stephen Curl. It is good to see you guys, and we're going to jump into the Golden Scarves this week, the person, team, or thing that deserves some praise from the previous week. And Steven, it's good to see you, and you're going to get us kicked off with the Golden Scarves. Go ahead, buddy.
Yes. I don't know what y'all's answers are, but there can only be one answer for me this week, and it's got to go to Taiwo Awoniyi. Sorry if I butchered that. I'm just going to go with Taiwo for the rest of the time. But my golden scarf is going to Taiwo, scoring the winner against Arsenal over this past weekend, securing safety for Nottingham Forest, a result that I don't think any of us really saw coming. That makes his 5th goal in his last 3 Premier League games. 5 goals in 3 games. That's absolutely insane. Nottingham Forest had scored 7 in their last 3. So yes, if the math serves me right, that is 5 goals for Taiwo, 7 for Nottingham. Huge contribution toward the end of the season. Absolutely insane. He's been the epicenter of everything going right for Nottingham Forest, among some other pieces like Morgan Gibbs-White and some other talented players as well. But especially also in that span as well, Nottingham Forest has given up 5 goals conceded. So, I mean, that's an even goal differential just with Taiwo and Nottingham Forest's leaky defense. So, in a way, what do they say? Best defense is good offense, maybe? Probably not. But that's been the scenario with Nottingham Forest. And so he's really been bailing them out and securing their safety. It's amazing. He's only scored 4 Premier League goals in his previous 23 games in the Premier League that he's played in. So he scored 5 again in his last 3, and prior to that 4 in his last 23. So things have come together for this young man. So congratulations to him. He's getting my golden scarf this week, keeping Nottingham Forest safe. All their new signings. I had my doubts. We all had our doubts, but they did it. So congratulations to the Forest.
Getting it done at the right time indeed. Brandon, who are you giving a golden scarf to this week?
I'm going to keep it simple. Maybe this is just blatantly obvious, but Eddie Howe at Newcastle, what he's done with that club in the span of a year and a half, I think it's a year and a half, absolutely amazing. Turning them around, getting top 4, which I don't think anybody put them close to that at the beginning of the season. Honestly, I think Eddie Howe should be manager of the season. They're not going to give it to him because that's not how it works, but that would be my shout for manager of the season. There's a lot of great managers in the Premier League, obviously, especially this season. But what Eddie Howe has done to this Newcastle team, turning the lights of Almiron into a 11 goals this season player, Callum Wilson looking right on for England, and I gave him some slight earlier. You know, I cannot believe it. And they're only going to get better now with all this cash infusion, the Saudi-backed, club, whatever you feel about that. But Champions League money, that state money, Newcastle's about to blow up. And honestly, I'm sort of here for it.
Wow. Yeah, no, they have been, I think, ahead of schedule, and Eddie Howe has done an incredible job showing his genius, showing what he's capable of, and getting Newcastle to the top 4. Pretty remarkable achievement. I am going to go with the Tottenham connection, Coco, Eric Lamela, and Brian Hill getting the win over Juventus in extra time to send serial Europa League winner Sevilla to the final. It's just another duo from Tottenham that could go on to win trophies after they leave the club. But so awesome to see his passion that he always brings to the field after scoring, just running down the sideline, screaming in front of the Juventus bench. I love him and his ability to get under a team's skin. So good on those guys. They'll get to see former Tottenham manager Jose Mourinho. So love the matchup there. Can't get winners on Tottenham's team, though. That part's still hard to come by. Well, we are going to move to the Champions League. We had some entertaining semifinals, some interesting matchups, especially the one that took place in Milan. We saw Inter Milan take on AC Milan in the first leg. Inter went up 2-0 going in that first one, and that just means they had to hold on for 90 minutes to get to the Champions League final. And they did that and more, getting a goal in this one. AC Milan did have a lot of the better chances in the first half in this one. Teo Hernandez taking a shot that froze Onana in the 5th minute, just nearly misses. And then Tonali in the 10th minute created a pretty good chance for Brahim Diaz, again saved by Onana. And then from there, Brandon went down with Inter Milan.
Yeah, Inter Milan just was honestly playing really solidly. I think also Rafael Leao had a really good chance where he moved past his defender and I think put it wide, or maybe it was saved. But honestly, we were talking about how Rafael Leao was going to be the difference maker at this game. And I don't know if he was still recovering from injury, but that's what it seemed like. He did not show up. He was not a difference maker, literally a non-factor throughout the whole game, which was very, very surprising. Inter go on. They sub on Lukaku, which Lukaku has been a difference maker for them come the late part of the season. I think they're undefeated in the last 6 or 7 games, I think I saw, in all competitions. And he's been a difference maker for that, scoring goals, coming up with assists, and he did that in this game. An assist from Lukaku to Lautaro Martinez to put the game away, to put the series away, to punch their ticket into the Champions League final. Absolutely amazing. I cannot believe it's happening.
It is pretty incredible to see. I just wanted to make a quick note. This is 2 years in a row that we've had our dark horses reach the Champions League final. Steven, yours last year being Real Madrid. Brandon, Inter Milan being yours this season. Love the scarf. But I want to ask the question of, did they maybe have the easier route getting there? Should we be surprised, or are they just getting hot at the right time? What do you guys think?
Well, I was about to look up who they played because my memory fails me right now. Yeah, they played Benfica, who is definitely the better team, should have been beaten by them. And then the first round, who they played Porto. So
Porto, yeah.
Maybe, but I think they were probably underdogs in all of the legs that they've played, like all of the series. And the fact that they've come through them is absolutely amazing. They've been probably underdogs the whole tournament. And to get this far, I mean, no one would have expected that. So I don't know. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, coming from Tottenham fan who's been to a Champions League final and lost, no one cares if you make it and lose. You're just the first loser. I think that's what they say. So let the critics criticize where they may, but at the end of the day, it's just going to come down to Inter versus Manchester City. And I'm sure fans in Milan are enjoying this run. However, I mean, they expect a trophy. So if they don't get it, it'll be a letdown. So they got to go through the best team in the world. That's what's fun about Champions League. The best team always wins. So how they got there, I mean, they played great football. So if it was just in the build-up stages, we're going to find out if they can do it up against City.
Yeah, and we'll get to those odds in a second. Real Madrid and City, they had a 1-1 draw, an entertaining first leg. But in the second one, guys, this one got ugly, and it got ugly quick. We had Bernardo with a brace, Akanji getting in the action with a goal, and Julian Alvarez finishing off the match with a goal in the 91st minute. And this, again, was this City being on a different planet, Steve, or just Real Madrid just not being up for it in this semifinal?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both, right? You always want to play your second leg at home, I think, is like the wide understanding. So, and they go into it level on goals. And you have that knowledge of away goals aren't really that big of a magnitude anymore either. So it's only benefits being at home. And you saw this Manchester City team just really play to their full potential. And I think the answer is yes to both. Real Madrid not being up for it. Yeah, I mean, they're a fantastic team, and they're still an amazing, solid squad. That score line was pretty wild though, because the goals just kept to keep coming and coming and coming. We were all texting each other. We're like, "Oh my gosh, there's another! Oh my gosh, Kevin De Bruyne! Oh my gosh!" So I mean, this City team is absolutely dangerous. They're the best team in the world, so it's hard to give Real Madrid too much stick. But
Yeah, well, I mean, I was watching the game and just Real Madrid were just having to absorb and absorb and absorb. It just they didn't get any touches in their front part of the field at all. I mean, they were just having to sit back and they were just taking punch after punch from Man City and eventually caught up to them. And you get 4 goals in the back of your net, and this just there was no coming back from that. I think City just were on another planet. Ancelotti had no response at all. Even at halftime, they were only down, I think, 2 at that point. So they easily, with the talent that they have, Vinny Jr., Benzema, Modric in the middle, you could have had the chance to get those 2 goals back, and they just never even looked like they really had a chance, Brandon. For you, what was the difference maker in this game?
Yeah, I think it was players winning their one-on-one matchups across the field. Grealish outplayed his right back. Who is that? I forget his name. It's Carvajal, right? Bernardo Silva outplaying Camavinga, which is hard to do. I mean, we know Camavinga's a transplant midfielder into that left back role, but Bernardo Silva had him on a string all day. It comes down to that, and those two were probably the biggest factors in the game. Man City's defense also just like never let up anything. Kyle Walker, there was a video going around of him chasing down Vinicius Jr., who's one of the fastest players in the world as well, and just like making an incredible defensive play. Probably the best right back I've ever seen. Maybe the best right back ever. Kyle Walker, is that fair to say? He played at Villa and Spurs, by the way. So
Certainly
I don't know.
One of the fastest players we've seen in the Premier League as well.
Yeah, and especially like he's been in this Pep team for so long. I know we're going to get into this about are they the best team ever, but he's been a stalwart in that defense. So, yeah, and you know what's so funny? I want to mention this and hear your thoughts as well. Kevin De Bruyne and Haaland like didn't have great games. Like Kevin De Bruyne, the best midfielder in the world, I think Steve and I said a couple weeks ago, like was quiet. That's scary. That's scary when Kevin De Bruyne is quiet and you still beat Real Madrid 4-0 and Haaland doesn't score. What? You tell me what that means. I don't know.
Well, if I remember correctly, it's even interesting to think about Bernardo Silva being a player that's potentially kind of been on the fringes a year or two ago. If I'm remembering correctly, it could have been sold. Maybe the likes of PSG or Barcelona, I want to say.
Still might be, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's crazy. Like you just have these players on Manchester City who, when De Bruyne and Haaland aren't at their best, you just have these amazing talents that anywhere else would be the number one guys, and they can come in, they can save the day. And you saw Bernardo Silva control that game on that right side and just showed what the difference maker can be. And yeah, Kevin is allowed to have a day off, and it's so easy. It seems like for City, it just doesn't matter who they put on the field. Like they're going to get the job done. And it seems like they might be impenetrable when they come up against Inter Milan in the final. Yeah, Steve, the odds aren't looking good for Inter Milan. You currently have negative 400 for Man City to win. Inter Milan have a high task in front of them. Do you give them any chances to win this game against Manchester City?
100%. I mean, yeah. How can you not? It's a final. Yeah, you can't just say they have no chance, right? Inter Milan is a very sound team, and I'd throw the question up like it's going to be a different team that City's played. 2-striker system with Dzeko, Lukaku, or Lautaro Martinez. I mean, those are 3 strikers in those 2 spots. I mean, you saw Lukaku get subbed on and make a difference right away with an assist to Lautaro Martinez. I think that there will be goals in this game. I really do. I think that Lautaro Martinez, Lukaku, Dzeko, and the way Inter Milan play, I think they can get a goal at least against Manchester City. So I think this is going to be a way more open game, I hope. but Inter play sound. It's the classic, I feel like, Italian system in your head, a sound team, a good defense. So it's going to be, I obviously City are the favorites. I will not say that they are not the favorites, but I'm not going to sit here and ever doubt anybody's dark horse prediction, especially Brandon's. So that's made it all the way to the final. So stranger things have happened. Inter Milan has won the Champions League before. So they deserve to be here. They're football royalty, and so who's to say that they're not just gonna come back to the top and reclaim one of the biggest trophies you can win in world football? So I won't dismiss them, but my money would be on Manchester City if you were to force my hand.
Yeah. Well, Brandon, you mentioned Holland. He had a couple of shots stopped by Courtois that were just world-class saves, a hat trick of them. Going up against Onana, do you think Holland will have a little bit more success against this Inter defense?
This Italian team is really physical. I think there's going to be some tempers flaring. They're going to get at the mental aspect of the game a lot. And this Inter team can play. Very good interplay. Steve, you mentioned the two strikers where they go with Dzeko and Lautaro like they did for the past couple rounds. Or if Lukaku gets a start up there, who knows? But Barella in the midfield is a monster. He's so fit. He can get up and down, just box to box midfielder, very physical. And that Inter coach, I forget his name right now, but he's a top 10 manager in the world. Like, he is very tactically astute. So if Inter have to sit in for 90 minutes and nick a counter 1-0, I think they can do that. If they want to play through Man City, and bust it wide open, I'm sure they could do that too. Whether Man City allows them to, I have no idea. But it's a very tall task to take down this Manchester City side, especially the way they're playing. It's hard. I still want to hang out there with my dark horse, but nah.
Tottenham's done it. That was the last time they fell. So who knows?
Yeah. Inzaghi is the Inter Milan manager. Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be, I think, a good game. City can be vulnerable in these one-off games. They've shown time and time again. They weren't perfect this season by any means. They were vulnerable, and Inter does have a good enough team where they get one chance, sit back. You got Bastoni and Skriniar in the back. They might be able to hold things on the defensive side. They can get ahead early, or maybe they'll need a little bit of magic in Turkey come June 10th. Well, the Europa League final is set as well. Roma went on to beat Leverkusen 1-0 on aggregate. Roma having only about 28% of possession in that second leg and would hold on 0-0 to beat Leverkusen, a Jose Mourinho masterclass of sorts. And then, as I said earlier, Sevilla beating Juventus 3-2 on aggregate in extra time by the hands of Eric Lamela on a header. So that means the matchup is set. Sevilla versus Roma come Wednesday, May 31st in Budapest. The odds are pretty even right now, but Sevilla are slight favorites at plus 180 for this one. You have the serial Europa League final winners, and you have serial winner Jose Mourinho. An unstoppable force meets an immovable object, Steven. If you had to choose one of these teams to win, are you taking Jose Mourinho, the European Emperor, or are you taking Sevilla, Europa League serial winners?
I am Jose Mourinho. No, yeah, I'm going Jose. I really think that he can do it. I don't know if it's just me being sad and missing him. But no, I think they can get it done. Jose he's still one of the best managers in the world. I think he knows he's done this before, but so is Sevilla. So I think it's gonna be a great game. But I think Jose Mourinho. I'll put my money on that guy any day of the week and a cup final.
Brandon, where do you land?
Yeah, this is such an interesting matchup. Roma, who won, was it the first iteration of the Europa Conference League last year? That's Jose Mourinho, the first manager to win all three competitions, European competitions, that is. That's how they got into the Europa League this year. Will they make the Champions League if they win? They will. That's a tasty opportunity. It's really hard to go against Jose Mourinho on a one-off game. You'll probably see a 1-0 win. But man, Sevilla, you mentioned it, serial winners. They probably have more firepower. You know what? I'll go and say they definitely have more firepower than Roma does. So it's really if Roma can hold on for 90 plus minutes, whatever it takes. You're right. It's Jose versus Sevilla. I don't know. What do you think, Cole?
I just want to see Jose make history. I want to see him win Conference League, win Europa League, and at least have a chance at winning Champions League. I just think that'd be so cool. If anyone was going to do it, it would be him. Obviously, Pep can't do it because if City was ever in Conference League, I'm sure something happened to the club.
Pep would never.
So yeah, I want him to. Right. Yeah. We will just forfeit the chance. We won't even participate. I want Josie to win 100%. Like Steven said, is it the bit of me that misses him? Probably. It's hard not to love him. He's just a character of the game. Soccer is going to miss him. Football is going to miss him when he's gone. I hope he still has a couple more years in him, just because you can see what he can do to a team like Roma, who don't have the big investment right now. They have had some injury issues as of late. They're kind of just like scratching away at the end of this season to try and win something. And it looks like the Europa League final is close to being theirs. Just takes one more game against Sevilla, 90 minutes, maybe a little bit more, but I think they can get it done. Which we see one other team has been scraping by in the Premier League, West Ham. They have been bottom dwellers for much of the season. They look like they are now safe in the Premier League. They won 3-1 in their semifinal aggregate. And Fiorentina, they won 4-3 in a little bit more dramatic of a tie. And that means they are set for June 7th in Prague, West Ham being the favorites here. And this is a chance for them to be Europa League contenders next season. A team that's had a lot of issues, question marks surrounding David Moyes, his future around the club. And he's been talking and reiterating time and time again, the ownership group, the club supports me. They're not worried about the results that, the fans are clamoring over, saying, Moyes out, the club has no direction, so on and so on. And now he has a chance to prove it in a final, maybe even have the chance to play more European football despite their Premier League standings next season. Just a quick fire. Does David Moyes settle himself into a long-term future winning the Europa Conference League if they can get it done this season, Brandon?
No, but I definitely think he'll be in the job next year. They're favorites. They should beat Fiorentina. I think their team is built for 4 cup tournaments. Like I think they're built for that. With Declan Rice and Souček in the midfield, they're just so good. The Premier League, they haven't done so well this year, but here they are in a Conference League final. They should do it. David Moyes will be the coach next year, I believe. And yeah.
Steve, does it disturb you to have another London team potentially having a cup final before Tottenham can?
I think it would disturb me if that wasn't the case. I would know that I was in a dream or something was wrong with my reality if my fellow London teams weren't winning around me. So it's nice to know that I'm not in a simulation and that this is reality, and I'm not in a dream within a dream right now with Leo DiCaprio.
Okay, fair enough. Also, the fans, I don't know the exact club that West Ham just beat, but they were like going after the West Ham family members in the stands. Just absolute madness. The players having to protect their family members. Pretty big disgrace. Hate seeing that in football alongside the whole Vinny Jr. stuff. Horrible things that the game needs to get under control. Well, the Premier League, guys, we have reached the end. An exciting season. I would argue a topsy-turvy season. A lot of teams that weren't expecting to rise up from the table took it by the neck this season and found themselves in European competition for the first time in their history. and even a club thought that they could get it done this season but fell just short. I'm talking about Arsenal. Steven, you mentioned in your Golden Scarves, Arsenal losing 1-0 away at Nottingham Forest, and this was the result that confirmed Manchester City's third straight Premier League title, an incredible feat that we have only seen, I want to say, is it one other time or two other times, a three-peat like this, which meant that Manchester City got the Guard of Honor from Chelsea as they were confirmed champions this past weekend. They would obviously go on to beat Chelsea 1-0, even with a fully rotated squad, including a couple of youngsters. And I want to land on this debate. I think that we could have some good things to talk about here. There's been a lot of talk about this team being the best one ever in the Premier League. And right now, I want to start with you. Your thoughts on this. Is this 2022-2023 Manchester City team the best the Premier League has seen?
On paper, it's hard to say no. Just player by player, the depth that they have. I mean, you saw it. They played a full B squad against Chelsea and won. I think their B squad could compete for a title. Legit, like seriously. And that is just insane. I don't think we've ever seen a Premier League team have this much depth. And look, we might find out that they've been cheating this whole time with all the money stuff and the 100+ allegations the Premier League's brought against them. And then we might be having a different conversation in a year or 2, 4, 5 years time, whatever it takes. But for now, like, I think on paper, this team is the best and the deepest. But they need to do something still this year, which is win the Champions League and win the FA Cup against Manchester United. That is when I'll start considering them as one of the best, like actual best ever, not just player by player. They need that, I think.
And they've had a very dominant season, and we were just talking about this a little bit before we came on live here, but I was looking at some of the records. They were the first team to record 100 points in 16-17, I think. I think they lost 2 games that year, which is just incredible. But then I was looking at that Liverpool team in 1920, the COVID season, where they had lost 2 games, I want to say, prior to the COVID, or maybe even 1 game, all the way up until March. An incredible team. And I just think top to bottom, you had Van Dijk probably having his best season ever, arguably. Mo Salah, incredible goal scoring record. Firmino firing. You had Mane firing. That front three was just incredible together. You pair it with Jordan Henderson having an incredible season as the captain that year. Alisson. I would argue even more than that invincible season Arsenal had in, I think, 03-04. That Liverpool team is hard to beat, despite, I think, equaling the 100-point record set by that 16-17 Manchester City team. But when you talk top to bottom, just player quality, just adding Haaland alone is more than enough to beat, I think, that front three that Liverpool had. Just his goal scoring, I think, probably total more than those three probably had it combined, I would bet, which is just insane. Absolutely insane. And you throw in Bernardo Silva, you have Kevin De Bruyne, you have Riyad Mahrez just sitting on your bench, fooling around, playing a game every other week or so. Their depth is so good. That's where it gets a little bit muddy on, okay, is it the best team talent-wise? Probably. But I do think that Liverpool may have had the most dominant season, I think, in that 1920 year. Even despite kind of the odd things that happened with COVID, they still had that thing wrapped up before the break even happened. Steve, what about you?
I mean, I hate to go back super far, but I mean, we have the Invincibles, right? In Arsenal in 2003, 2004 that did not lose. With Thierry Henry scoring 30 goals. So I mean, it all goes into what Brandon was saying. Even I'm kind of on his track. If I want to see Man City win FA Cup and Champions League, but then it's like, are you talking about Premier League team, or are you taking account these other competitions, right? As far as European Champions League and stuff like that. So, I mean, no one's going to be better than, I think, Arsenal not losing a single game. I don't think that will ever happen. I mean, City, how amazing their teams have been on paper, haven't gone undefeated, but they've been incredibly dominant. But I
They
think
had
if they
more
win
wins
this
though.
European, yeah, they do have more wins. They do have more wins. But then it comes to like, sure, but to not lose an entire, like that's literally being perfect without a blemish. But I mean, it's all up for interpretation. But I'm with you on if City take away this FA Cup and win the Champions League, it's. I mean, I guess a quadruple is great too, right? So they didn't get that. You go United. But no, I think if they grab all those three trophies, I mean, everybody will debate about it, but I think, yeah, I mean,
Well, Brandon, is it even worth debating the time difference of just the level of play? The level of play and when Manchester United won the treble in what 99 is totally different than what the Premier League looks like today, does it not?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the old heads will get mad, but I think this Manchester City team under Pep would absolutely steamroll and dominate that Manchester United side. And that's not just recency bias. That is player quality. Tact that's Pep being a tactician, where Alex Ferguson was a man manager. I think Pep's probably a better man manager than Alex Ferguson was. Like it's I think that's easy to tell. Like Pep brings all these egos in, right? And basically puts them under their wing and forces them to play a system where Alex Ferguson was going for guys that didn't have really big egos. He could get the best out of them. It's a different era. It's a different era of game. And like, I would love to still go back and watch that team, Giggs, Scholes, all Beckham. I mean, they had a good starting 11, a really good starting 11, but I also think they won twice. Manchester United in their history, they've three-peated twice. I think that's what you were saying earlier, Cole. So like, and I think that was one of the teams as well. So it's like, man, are they like for their era? Definitely, absolutely amazing. But if you start, it's hard to compare eras, right? Sort of like the LeBron
yeah.
Jordan argument, right? Like it's sort of like maybe, yeah, I
Athletes
don't
are
know.
only ever going to always get better. Like if
Better,
you were to
right?
take a 21-year-old David Beckham and put him into sports medicine, everything now into a top European club, I mean, he'd probably do better than his stats prior. Like that's just the
Yeah,
Yeah.
way athletes are always going to be better. So if there's
Yeah.
any
I mean,
old heads watching the podcast, sorry about that. That's just reality.
yeah, the 2010s just saw a revolution in sports. I mean, across the board, you see baseball, basketball, football, soccer, all included. Just, yeah, the sports science, the data, the Moneyball aspect, everything just changed. And it would be crazy to see how it all influences, if you could create a 2000 team versus a 2020 team, how different it would be. It would be entertaining.
yeah.
I'm still landing on this team potentially being the most deep, most talented individual team, but maybe not the most dominant season, I don't think, in the Premier League history. Well, on the slightly lower end, in the top four, the race for Europe, it's coming down to the last day. This is a fun season, as I mentioned. So many teams in contention for these European spots. New teams that hadn't been in for a while, even newly promoted teams relatively are seeing success in this 2022-2023 season. We saw Man United, they beat Bournemouth 1-0, a fun little kind of over-the-head kick from Casemiro gets them the winning goal. That helped keep them in fourth place, only a point behind Newcastle, who Newcastle beat Brighton 4-1 in the midweek. Some things that you learned from Brandon and kind of what you saw in this game.
Yeah. First off, an own goal in the 22nd minute. Not a great way to really start the game off for Brighton. But Dan Burn got a goal right in extra time, right before half. And, it's 2-0 going into halftime. You're thinking, Brighton's not really showing up yet. What's going on? They get a goal in the 51st minute. Undav makes up for the own goal. And then that's when things get interesting, right? Because you're at this balance. The 2-0 lead is one of the hardest leads to keep, the scariest lead in football, if you believe in that. And I think, sorry, a motorcycle just went by as loud as possible. so, but Newcastle wanted it more. They wanted Champions League. They weren't going to let this game slip, and they really put the pedal to the metal. Callum Wilson scoring in the 89th minute, Bruno Guimaraes scoring in the 91st. And Steve, what did you learn from this game? Because I think you were saying last week Brighton was better than Newcastle. I think I told you, no way. Newcastle's been way better this season. What are your thoughts after this game?
Yeah, I think my thoughts after this game, and you kind of alluded to it in your golden scarf with Eddie Howe, as I was all for Newcastle being great this year, right? Like amazing run, like top 4, let's go. But I think there's a difference of expecting a guest appearance in the top 4 and expecting this to be a new norm, I guess. I don't know if that's making sense, but Newcastle's legit. They're real. And even when like they tied Leicester today 0-0, but they didn't allow a goal and they got a point and they qualified for Champions League. So it's games like that. It's games against Brighton to beat them 4-1. It's like, oh, you want goals? We'll show you goals against one of the best tactical teams in the Premier League this year in Brighton Hove Albion. So yeah, I learned a lot in that Newcastle is going to be a menace next year. And it's an exciting prospect for players to come and play for. Come play for Eddie Howe, come be a part of this project. We're kind of the new kid on the block. And I think they're going to be great next year. I think they're going to be a top 4 team next year as well. A bunch of Champions League money into the club. We talked about the ownership group, their unlimited resources. Newcastle's real, and I was a little skeptical of them. I will admit of them. I was like, are they really finishing top 4? Like, is this just kind of, like West Ham almost being in Champions League, or was like a season or 2 ago, something like that, or like what is this here? But yeah, they're legit. If they're legit with these players, I don't even want to think about if they have 300 million pounds to spend in the next 2 transfer windows. So we'll see. But yeah, they're there to stay in that top 4.
What's some of the praise you could give Newcastle, Brandon?
Well, I already gave it to Eddie Howe, and I think it really starts and ends with him. Honestly, what a manager. My manager of the season, I think, and that's hard coming from a Villa fan with Unai Emery. Just absolutely incredible job. Cannot give him enough credit. But it's all over the place. I mentioned Miguel Almiron earlier. 11 goals, 2 assists. He was their top goal scorer up until like a couple weeks ago when Callum Wilson has been on like an amazing run. Callum Wilson, speaking of, 18 goals, 5 assists. You have Isak and St. Maximin, who are 2 of the league's most exciting players, right? Step overs. It's just amazing soccer to watch. They ended up with the second best they could end up with the best defense depending on what happens the next 2 weeks. They're 1 goal difference away, or 1 goal allow away from Manchester City. So depending on how many goals Manchester City gives up and Newcastle give up, there'll be 1 or 2. So they have one of the best defenses in the league, which is crazy to think about because under Steve Bruce, they were not great. Fabian Schär was not good. Jamal Lascelles was not good. Now Fabian Schär looks like a top 4 defender, which is weird. So kudos to them there. And then you have Bruno and Joelinton, who, what a turnaround for Joelinton, right? Playing striker, Eddie Howe saying, no, you're not good there. And we all know it. You're actually going to play defensive midfield, box-to-box midfield for me. And you are going to shut it down and also score goals. I don't have how many he had here, but like he scored goals this year and he's played a pivotal role in their success. It's crazy. And one last one, Dan Burn. He looks 7 foot on the field. He's probably like 6'5". I don't know, tall, skinny, white. He's a left back. He's not a center back. He's a left back for them. It's so awkward watching him play left back, I'll admit, but somehow he does it week in and week out, and he's really, really good. So I don't know how Eddie Howe's doing it there in Newcastle, but it's an exciting prospect going forward for them. If you're a Newcastle fan, you're absolutely loving it. And Big Six, take notice because they are here to stay, like Steve said.
Yeah, they might be a blueprint for teams to follow in the future. build around the manager, give them a year, and then prove what they can do. And maybe we'll see upcoming this summer, the transfer window, what they might do to expand upon their success with some investment from their ownership group. As we mentioned, Brighton, they did fall to Newcastle, but they recovered well, beating Southampton 3-1. Evan Ferguson getting a brace, and this means for the first time in the club's history, Brighton will receive a European spot this season. Seagulls fans seeing their team grow, getting the new stadium in the Amex not too long ago, and finally now they'll be able to host European football games is pretty incredible for the squad that even saw their own manager lead the season, and they didn't skip a beat. Pretty amazing to see from a team like Brighton, punching above their weight. So many would say, and even now, we'll see what they can do next season. Tottenham, they have been falling apart, Stephen, at the worst time possible. I think we've won 2 out of our last 11 games or something crazy like that. Harry Kane got the scoring done early in pretty amazing, stellar fashion, but it really wasn't enough. We would go on to concede 3 to Wisa and Mbumo. The defense looking just lost, a little slow to defend on the first goal. Busuma being out of position, his second game back now, I want to say, from a long-term injury, and then just running past Davies on a nice through ball, and boom, getting the finish there. I see our I want to this Steven.
Yeah.
I love it. Our future captain, Oliver Skipp, sealing the game for Brentford. He got caught up in our own half, trying to dribble out of a tight place and just got mugged, and just gave up a late goal. This really was not fun in there. But let's just get to a moment where we can talk about some hypotheticals. Let's just say Harry Kane leaves this summer. He has had 28 Premier League goals in this season alone. Pretty incredible from one guy on a team that has been pretty detrimental all the way around defensively. He's been having to hold a lot of the load offensively. So if we don't have him next season, Steve, where do we realistically fall? Are we going to fall to a Chelsea standard, go to the bottom half perhaps? I mean, surely probably out of a European spot if he leaves, right?
100%. Yes. I don't really want to even have any conversations about it, to be quite honest. Because you look at Harry Kane, and if he leaves, I mean, we're going to be replacing Davies, Hugo Lloris, probably a center back, probably a couple midfielders, maybe getting some guys in. Like, this team needs so much overhaul. So you take 28 goals out of a player, and I wish I had done my due diligence and looked up the next leading goal scorers on Tottenham, but it's like you look around and it's like the John Travolta meme, just going like, who is it? Is it Kulusevski? No. Is it Heung-min Son? No. Richarlison? Absolutely not. Like, where are the goals going to come from? And that's the most terrifying part. I think even if Richarlison comes in and scores 12, which that would be, like, probably you might give him 15. It would be like a generous prediction for next year if he was in Tottenham's side. But even then, gosh, I would say Kane scoring 28 goals in this Tottenham team is more impressive than Erling Haaland scoring 36 for Manchester City. This would make Tottenham a bottom half team. To actually answer your question, I really do think we would find ourselves with the resources that the clubs around Tottenham have. We just talked about Newcastle, Brighton. I mean, like I said last week on the podcast, I knew Brentford was going to beat us. Like, I 100% knew it. Tottenham gives no reason to believe in this team at all as a fan. And sorry, let me just wheel it back. But yeah, next, it's the future, looking into the future and the hypotheticals. I think Tottenham are actually considering keeping Kane for one more season because they would rather have him and let him walk for free than sell him and get into a scary situation next year. I really think it's better for Tottenham at this point to keep Harry Kane and let him go away for free because we need him. We need him. Without Harry Kane, I don't know where we will end up next year. So, which is crazy. It's absolutely wild. I don't know what you think. I'm curious about your thoughts because I've missed you these past couple of weeks. It's just been doom and gloom, like rain clouds and lightning over here. So I need you to brighten up my skies, please.
Man, it has been rough. I was so optimistic going into the Brentford game. I was talking with a friend, and he's an Arsenal fan. I was like, I can be okay finishing, sixth, beating Brentford, beating Leeds to finish out the season, and just getting wiped off the floor by Brentford in just horrible, horrible fashion. Yeah, it's just tough. It feels so much different than 2 years ago when we finished sixth, I guess, to qualify for Europa. We bring in Nuno. There's so many question marks surrounding Harry Kane, especially going to City at that point. Like, it felt like then was like the low point, right? It was just a lot of question marks. But now this feels like the lowest point I've had as a Tottenham fan, arguably. You had the rough patch firing Pochettino, but you bring in Jose, you kind of stay optimistic. Jose has a little bit of a rough patch. COVID, though, kind of makes things murky. You fired him in a weird time with the cup final. All that just sort of strange and very Tottenham-esque. But now, not only are you finishing potentially out of a European spot if things don't go well the final day, you're rejecting one of the top managerial candidates that's available right now in Nagelsmann. You said, actually, we don't really think you're going to be a fit for our club. You don't fit the standard that we want, is essentially what they've said so far. And now your star player who is carrying your team may either be on the outs this summer or, like you said, could go on a free next season. Those are some pretty dramatic things going on around the club. And obviously you have so many fans who want Levy to no longer be in the director's seat. You don't want him to have anything to do with the club. You want new ownership. You want Joe Lewis out so he can bring in funding. There's just so much stuff going on at Tottenham. We keep losing games in the most Tottenham way possible. And it's really falling into the saying that fans have come to adore recently. It's Tottenham till they kill me. And it seems like they're trying to kill as many people as they can right now with how things have gone. And it's so crazy. I mean, every manager that has left has been right about what they said. Pochettino talking about it's something like what you can have the furniture in the house and I don't know, whatever it is. The furniture quote, Jose talking about the club, the ownership group, and Conte. His scathing exit interview, I think mostly serving right as well. It's just been a crazy turn of events. And I don't know what you can do. You obviously need to work on the defense. Your offense has been there, but your defense has been abysmal. When you're scoring 68 goals and you're giving up 63 goals or something like that, the defense needs work. You have so many question marks there. Your goalkeeper not getting to finish out his tenure as captain, that's a tragedy in and of itself. 10 years, Hugo Lloris has been captain at Tottenham, and he's now not going to get to play a final game potentially. If he's let go this summer, the chance to move on. That's just sad. It's sad. It's not what you want to see from a club. It's just so strange. You feel like there's simple things that should be happening, and I feel like they're choosing to be stubborn and saying, there's turning their nose up to certain opportunities. It's very interesting. I'm not having fun, but I told Brandon before this, I'm being optimistic and hoping that we can beat a relegation side in Leeds on the final day. So hopefully we can get that Europa Conference League spot. It's better than nothing. I think Jose kind of showed that last year. Winning the Conference League gives it some legitimacy because it can spur you on potentially onto another trophy like Roma might do this season. But it's getting rough out there. Brandon, I feel bad because Liverpool's chances of getting a European spot drew a little bit slimmer because they drew 1-1 against Liverpool. Jacob Ramsey, the youngster, getting a goal early, but from Bobby Firmino in his last Liverpool home game, getting the equalizer, a very poetic end to his time at Anfield. You guys said this was pretty much a must-win for both teams. European spots, obviously, on the docket. So, Brandon, for you, if you guys don't get a European spot, is it the end-all, be-all for Villa, or is it just kind of icing on the cake if you got a European spot? How do you feel about that?
It's weird. It's one of those things where I think, the table never really lies. I think it maybe lies this year, though, with that Brighton-Tottenham game. I think Brighton could be fighting for Champions League if it wasn't for that poor refereeing display, if we all remember. That one of the worst I've ever seen. But, yeah, I think Villa will earn 7th or 8th. And coming from where Gerrard had us is an insane turnaround. 10 games unbeaten in the middle of the season. Unai Emery, just phenomenal. I think we scored, what was it, in his first 20 games or whatever it was, like something crazy like that. He's turned the club around. He's turned the mentality around. I honestly forgot what your question was, but I think 7th would be well earned.
Europe? Yeah.
Yeah. I think 7th would be well earned at this point. Again, having to take on Brighton at the last game, we'll see. Right? That's a team that's going to test you. So it all comes down to that. It's in our hands. If we win, we have 7th. If we don't, it's really up to Tottenham, right, to see if they beat Leeds. So I don't know. The Liverpool game was a really good test, though, at Anfield. They held it down really well. Honestly, Liverpool didn't look like they were going to score. That goal, Bobby Firmino's goal, really came out of nothing. It was just pure mind
that pass by Salah was amazing. Gosh,
it was so good. It was a great goal. And we missed a penalty that day too. So honestly, we probably should have won. So I think we can have our hopes high going into Brighton, knowing it comes down to that last day. Brighton's spot will basically already be secured in 6th. I like our chances.
All right, fair enough. Well, let's move on to the bottom. Chelsea's going to officially end the season in the bottom half of the table after their loss to Man City. Palace and Fulham, they drew 2-2. Mitrovic back with a bang, 2 goals. Makes you think where they potentially could have ended up had they not gotten that ban. Mitrovic, I think, what did he do? Did he push a official or something like that?
Yeah.
So they really, without him, struggled to maintain their position. Obviously, Nottingham Forest getting that big win against Arsenal means they were safe from relegation. We kind of talked that a little bit. All the promoted sides are staying up. I'm not sure if there is an answer to this. Brandon, you might know, or Steve, I don't know. Has there been a time where that's ever happened where all the promoted sides have stayed up before?
Yes, there has. And I'm going to pose the question back to you. Don't look it up. What year do you think it was?
Give me a hint. Was it in the past 15 years?
Yes.
Past 15 years.
Yes. 2 of them.
I'm just going to go with
years, but the most recent one was in the past 10 years.
I'm going to go whatever the season Leicester came up is. So probably 13, 14?
No.
I think that is. Is it 12, 13?
I'll go with I'll go with the year 15, 16.
And two of these teams are still in it. Okay. No. 17, 18 was the most recent with Newcastle, Brighton, and Huddersfield. I forgot Huddersfield stayed up the season before getting bounced that second year. Dang, I was going to have you guys guess those 3 teams. I'm an idiot. But what was the all right, I'll name you these 3 teams. This was the previous one, and you have to guess the year, okay? QPR, Norwich City, and Swansea City all staying up.
Oh, Swansea. That's your team. That's your B team right there.
Yeah, so those are 3 promoted sides all staying up. What year?
It feels like an 11-12.
Yeah.
QPR was already in the Premier League that season.
It's 11-12. Nice guess, Steve.
Let's go.
So they came up in 11-12. So I'm not wrong, but yeah.
No, you're wrong. I'm right.
Wow.
Wow, that's crazy. QPR, Queens Park Rangers, where are they at nowadays? They got to be in League One.
No, championship. They had a good run this year,
yeah.
but
Championship still?
sort of fell off second half of the season. Yeah. Meh.
Wow.
Thank you always for the quiz.
Wow.
Quizzes. Thank you.
Gosh,
I like your little quizzes. They are
so
fun. Everton drawing at Wolves a last-minute Yuri Mina goal. That could be pivotal in those final days coming up. Leeds, as we said, losing their points against West Ham. They were up 1-0, and then things got ugly quick.
They're
Losing
gonna beat
3-1.
us.
No, they're not. No,
They
they're
might.
not.
They're gonna have to if they want
They're
to stay.
going if they're gonna beat us.
Hey, it may not be the worst thing ever. At the end of the day, give us a chance just to focus on the Premier League and domestic cups. Who knows? Leicester drew Newcastle, as we said, 0-0. Solid result, which takes them above Leeds on goal differential, but they're still not in safety. So the relegation outlook as it is right now, we'll look at Everton at 17th with 33 points, a negative 24 goal differential. Leicester in 18th, 31 points, negative 18 goal differential. So a win and an Everton draw would give them the advantage there. Leeds in 19th at 31, negative 27. And then, as we know, Southampton officially relegated as of their last game. So Everton can guarantee safety with a win versus Bournemouth. Leicester City must win versus West Ham, and Everton to draw or lose in order to secure safety. And then Leeds must beat our beloved Tottenham Hotspurs. And Leicester City then must draw or lose, and Everton lose, and maybe a draw depending on that goal differential to be safe. So it's getting hairy. It's getting tight. I'm just so in the camp of I don't want to see Everton go down. I like the streak that they have being the only team to never be relegated. But for you guys, are you wanting a particular team to escape out of relegation, or do you like the bottom three that's in there right now as it stands? Steve, I'll start with you first.
Oh man, we just went to a Atlanta United game with our dear Leicester City fan friend Trey Powers. So I would hate it for him if Leicester went down, but that's the only reason. I think everyone wants Everton to stay up. I would like Everton to stay up. Liverpool fans might disagree, but I'm in the camp of Everton staying up and let the bottom three fall where they may.
Brandon?
Looking at the games, I don't know if I really care who goes down. Leeds deserve to go down when you change your manager that many times in a season.
Yeah.
Leicester,
They have
like
Americans
Dean Smith.
though, so I want them to stay up. Sorry.
Yeah, they'll probably move on, I'd guess, but I don't know. Who knows? I can't imagine Weston McKennie going from Juventus to Leeds than to playing in the championship. Who knows? But yeah, Leeds playing Spurs. Like when you start saying three things have to happen for you to be safe, that is just not great. I think they're probably gone. Leicester City could definitely win against West Ham, and Everton could lose or draw to Bournemouth. With Leicester City's goal differential helping them out here, they got to beat West Ham, and they have good enough players to do that. So I don't know. I don't think they're fully out of it yet. Obviously, it's the last game, so they're in it until they're not. But Everton playing Bournemouth is a wonderful matchup for them, and they're the ones that hold their destiny in their hand. They hold the sword here. If they win against Bournemouth, they're safe. Leicester City and Leeds are down. So I don't know if I really care which one, but it would be Everton or Leicester for me wanting to stay up. Leeds I could care less about.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. It would be sad to see Everton, I think, if they went down, potentially playing, I think, is it next season, the season after, playing in their new stadium in the championship would be quite the scenes, no doubt on that one. Well, we're going to go a step down to the championship for the playoffs. Brandon, give me the rundown on what's been going on with these teams, who's seeking promotion, and who is going to be denied that opportunity at Premier League glory.
Yeah, Sunderland was taking on Luton Town. In the first leg, Sunderland did win at home 2-1 to Luton. But in the second leg, Luton knew what they had to do, and they did it, winning 2-0, 3-2 on aggregate, knocking Sunderland out of the tournament for promotion. Luton will be going to the final. And then Coventry versus Middlesbrough. The first leg was a bore, 0-0 at Coventry. Taking it back to Middlesbrough, we said Middlesbrough probably has the upper leg here, being at home, knowing that they just need a goal and can hold on to a 1-0 win. Well, it was the opposite in the second leg. Coventry got that one goal through Hamer, I think is how you pronounce it, in the 57th minute, and that's how it stayed 1-0 on aggregate. So Luton will be taking on Coventry in the championship playoff final. Can you believe that?
No.
Cannot.
No, I cannot. Not at all.
One of those teams will be coming up to the Premier League next year.
What's crazy is those teams haven't been in the Premier League in decades, literally, right?
One of them has never. In Luton Town.
That's fascinating. I mean, they have their stadium looks like it's could fit like, I don't know, is it even 10,000 people in it?
I think Luton Town's about 10,000, yeah.
Wow. I mean, you would have the biggest players in the world coming and playing in what would be like a training ground almost. I'm pretty sure like City and Real Madrid and these big teams in Europe, their training grounds are probably as big as Luton Town's actual stadium is, which is just insane. So yeah, I think if I had to pick a team, I'd probably pick Luton Town just because I think it'd be remarkable to see them host Premier League teams for the first time ever. That would be nuts. But even Coventry, I'm just like, I don't even know anything about this club. To see them in the Premier League, I'm sure it would be insane for those fans as well.
Yeah. Coventry has the
real
better
quick,
crest.
Brandon.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, they do have a better crest. But I was going to ask you, Coventry was in league football and like League 1 and 2 football, like less than, like they were in like League 1 like 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, they were playing in the fourth tier. I forget when, but they just got promoted within the last 3 years from League 1 to the Championship. And then the fact that they're in this final is truly insane.
Wow. That's amazing.
Maybe some smart moves happening on their end. Maybe I should pay more attention to Coventry. I have no idea. And Luton. I mean, Luton was pretty good last year as well, almost getting in a playoff spot from what I remember. Didn't. They did this year. Now they're in the final. So I don't know. I don't really care. Both these teams, if either of them go up, will be going down next year. So it doesn't really matter.
Come on.
I don't really care all that much who comes up. But it's definitely interesting. I'll pick Coventry because their crest and colors are cool, but I don't care. But you should watch the final.
Fair enough.
You should watch the final.
You should. Yeah. It's the most financially implicative game in sports in the entire world. There's more riding on this game financially than any game that ever happens every year. So you should tune in and watch it.
And to clubs like Coventry and Luton Town, they probably haven't seen the financial gains that this game probably could provide either in their club's history, which could be massive. You talk about a club that has a small stadium that might be enough to expand. It might be enough to pay your players what they're worth. Who knows the ramifications on that in the end. Well, we're going to finish off with our fun part of the podcast, our MLS Fast Five. We have reached week 14 of the MLS. Some time to predict some scores and some games with the boys. We're going to get things kicked off with NYCFC taking on the Philadelphia Union. Steve, you always get us kicked off. Go ahead and get us started with your prediction on this one.
Yes. As the point, I'm just going to mention it. As the point leader of the last review, I know there's 2 match weeks this past week, but I finally beat Brandon in my predictions. I just wanted to let him know that, let all of y'all know that. But anyways, I'll let you know what's going on this week. Match week 14, NYCFC hosting Philadelphia Union. I got Philadelphia Union taking this one 2-1.
They're playing on the baseball field. NYCFC always gets the nod for me when they do so. 2-1 the other way for NYCFC.
I'm going to give the Union the advantage this go around. I think they're a pretty solid team. NYCA hasn't been the same since they won MLS Cup. I'm going, like Steve said, 2-1 in favor of the Snakes, the Union taking that one. St. Louis and Vancouver. In St. Louis, they're sitting third right now in their conference. Pretty good for them. Vancouver seventh, respectable from the side. In Canada, Steve, your thoughts on this one?
St. Louis likes goals, and I like giving them to them. I got them 3-1 to the good versus Vancouver.
I think they'll be winning as well, 2-0 at home.
I'll give them a 1-1 draw. Julian Gressel getting, I think, a goal for Vancouver. I'll even go that far as in my prediction. The Houston Dynamo versus Austin FC, a Texas derby. Two teams playing pretty subpar football this season, but a chance for them to probably get pivotal points in that Western Conference that has not seen as much success as they previously have. Your guys' predictions on this one?
I think this is going to be a snooze fest. I think it's going to be a 0-0 draw, nothing separating the two sides.
I think it'll be a draw as well, but I think there'll be some goals in it. I'll go with the 2-2 draw.
Boy, I have no idea on this one. It's just crazy. Austin has just been totally different this season. However, I think they can probably grind one out. It'll be ugly, but a 1-0 win. I'll give them the Verde a chance at 3 points this week against the Dynamo. A good matchup between San Jose and FC Dallas. I think Jesus Ferreira just got, was it Team of the Year FIFA honors this past week. He also scored some goals in an important Texas derby as well against who they play. Which other Texas team? I'm missing something.
Austin?
Anyways, predictions on the Austin. I couldn't think of it. Steve, your predictions for this one?
Yeah, I got FC Dallas on this one. It's going to be a fun matchup. San Jose 5 in the West versus Dallas being 4. But I got Dallas 3-1 on this one.
Pat?
Yeah, this one was tough. I'll go with San Jose at home 2-1.
I'm going to take the draw in this one. I got to get my points somewhere in these previews. 2-2 draw. I'll take that one there. And finally, Orlando City and Atlanta United. Orlando City sitting 7th in the East. Atlanta's still lingering around in the top 4, and they will look to go to Orlando and get some points. But can they do it, Steven?
Yes, I do, but it's going to be ugly and wild. If last weekend's any indication, I think we're going to walk away with the win, but I think it's going to be a 7-goal thriller, 4-3 to Atlanta United. I hope, please.
We were thinking on the same wavelength. There's going to be goals in this for sure. But I think Atlanta United will win away 3-2, hopefully.
I do not have the faith. We'll be without Luis Arujo. It might be a preview of our summer without him in the squad. How can we survive without him? I guess we're going to come to find out. I'm going to give it a 1-1 draw. Yakimakis not getting a goal, but Thiago Amada once again having to play the savior role for Atlanta United, this time against our bitter rivals, Orlando City. Well, now to our final segment. As we do, you betcha, the chance for us to get some locks that we believe will be some good bets, not betting advice, but our chance to have some fun with some games coming up. And we'll stick with the same order, Steven giving his lock first. He's got a fun one, I'm sure.
Yes, the logical Tottenham fan is speaking. Everybody listen up. I got Nottingham Forest drawing Crystal Palace on the weekend. It's a plus 300 odds on the money line. This Nottingham Forest team has been flying. I don't think there's going to be a result from these two teams. I think they're both pretty even, actually. So plus 300 on the money line sounds good to me, so I'm taking the draw.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, I don't like to be a homer and back my squad in these bets, but I have to. It's the last week, and they hold Europe in the palm of their hands. They can do it. I believe they will. Aston Villa plus 125 to beat Brighton. They're actually favorites in the game, which is interesting. It'll be at home. Villa Park will be rocking, I hope, knowing what's on the line. The players, I think, if they continue doing what they've been doing ever since Unai took over, I think we can get a result. I'm thinking it's going to be a win.
Listen, Steve calls himself the most rational, whatever Tottenham fan. I don't care. I'm supposed to cheer for my team. And they're supposed to be good against bottom teams. Well, this is the last chance to prove it. Any chance at European spots is up here. I have to take the boys at Tottenham plus 135 over Leeds. I don't care what Steven says, thinks, looks like. I'm taking my team because I love my club, despite any shortcomings they may have had as of late and in the future. I hope not in the future. Anyways, they're going to win over Leeds this weekend. I am betting on that. That is my lock, people. I rest my case. That's going to be the end of the supporter section podcast for today. We do hope you guys enjoyed our time together. You've obviously made it this far, which means that you should leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you have not already. Get in the comments and let us know how you feel. Have Manchester City become the best team ever in history with their Premier League title this season? Let us know your thoughts down below. I've been Cole Carter. They have been Brandon Patesnick and Stephen Curl. Enjoy your week. Enjoy the last bits of Premier League football. We will see you guys in the next one. Until then, peace out.